Was anybody else surprised to see Jalen Milroe dropping dimes like a clumsy banker the other day? I was.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, how are you today?
Oh, I'm good. I'm fired up about football and glad everyone else out there is fired up about football. A lot of football talk in the stratosphere.
And I screwed up by asking you how you're doing. That's my bad.
Oh, I launched into football, so we're good.
Number one, they don't want me to, and number two, I don't care. So
I'm tired, to be honest. I mean, if you're asking, I'm tired.
I know the feeling, man.
Exercise thing. Woo.
Now, let me say this. I did not think at this point in spring practice we would be discussing the beautiful, unbelievable, Marino-esque deep ball that Jalen Milroe threw. But that was all the buzz on Al Gore's internet the other day. And it was gorgeous. And it landed right in the breadbasket of Ja'Cory Brooks, who brought it in for a touchdown, I think, over Kool-Aid McKinstry. Just an unbelievable play, unbelievable throw. And before everybody gets too excited and says, hey, competition's over, this deal's cut, I know you have some thoughts on this in both a positive and a negative sense, and I'm going to let you ramble.
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, I have a lot. Simpson had thrown that ball and not Jalen, the conversation would be so different. And it just illustrates the feelings Alabama fans on Twitter and the message boards, social media have about the situation. I think personally, and I think Luke will agree, if Ty had thrown that ball, we would be reading hundreds of messages and posts and thoughts about how it's over. It's over. If Ty's throwing balls like that, there's no way Jalen's ever going to catch him. Ty's just too good. He's too accurate. He's too good of a passer. Milroe will never catch him. That would be like practically a universal opinion. But with Milroe throwing that ball that Luke described accurate, is just a perfect NFL level throw, a perfect throw from an NFL sense. Because Milroe threw it, were reserved. They're less emphatic. It's more interesting. And again, that's why this is interesting, because it was Milroe that threw it. And the whole point is this. Look, just because Jalen Milroe threw one good pass that we know of for certain, one great pass, that does not mean the competition's over. It doesn't even mean that Milroe leads. It doesn't mean that Milroe is going to start the Middle Tennessee game. It doesn't mean that Jalen Milroe has turned a corner. Might mean that, but it doesn't mean that for sure. It means very little. It's just a great play. I mean, it's just a great play. It would be like, if there's a video out there of Charles Bediako, swishing a three at practice, are people going to go, wow, Bediako is going to be our leading three-point shooter next year? That would be ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure every now and then Bediako makes a three at practice. Anybody making too much of the Milroe throw in a positive sense is going way overboard, doesn't understand that they throw a million balls in practice, and that this might have been the one really great one, and we don't see the 99 others that were pretty bad. Now, if you're also the other extreme, you're probably even more wrong, in my opinion. This is ridiculous. We're wasting time. He needs to play another position. He's never going to be a good passer. The people that are so emphatic about that opinion are so wrong. It drives me nuts. These were the same people. You have to know it's the same people that were saying the same thing about Hurts, who's now one of the best quarterbacks in the world, literally. And I'm not saying Milroe is going to be Hurts. I don't know that. I'm just saying that their stories are similar, therefore their progressions could be similar. I expect Jalen Milroe to be a much better quarterback this year than he was a year ago as a freshman. Why we are in such a hurry as sports fans to see these kids once when they're freshmen and label them forever like they're not going to get better. It's like, have y'all been around college sports? All these kids get better. They all get better. Well, most of them get better. Certainly the quarterbacks, as they gain experience, learn, progress even physically, progress technique-wise, and gain accuracy and confidence and anticipation skills. Look, I don't know that Milroe is going to be a quarterback. I've said all along, I think the starting quarterback will be Ty. That throw that I saw from Milroe doesn't change my opinion. I think eventually Ty Simpson is going to win this competition and be the quarterback. But it is that we shouldn't be surprised that Jalen Milroe is good. Why is that surprising? He was one of the most highly recruited quarterbacks in the country when he decommitted from Texas to commit to Alabama. And then as a redshirt freshman, yeah, he threw some bad throws. He turned over some balls. You know what he also did? He also made some good throws. He threw 3 touchdown passes against A&M. He won at Arkansas. Not everybody does that, by the way. And the negativity around Milroe, I'll say, I think the extent of the negativity is stupid. That's how far. I mean, the extent of the negative. I'm not saying there aren't negative takes from his performance, but the extent that I see it is just like, you guys watch football, college football. These kids get better. Most freshmen aren't good enough to be out there at all. Most of the time, they got to put some junior or senior walk-on out there because the freshmen aren't ready. Last year, he played a little bit before he was ready. Probably going to be more ready this fall.
I'm going to put a link to the tweet from Alabama football out there. A couple of things about it that are funny. First of all, Jalen Milroe has one of the first responses to the video because they tagged Kool-Aid McKinstry and Ja'Cory Brooks, and Jalen Milroe goes, "You didn't tag me?" Because that was the first thing everybody was asking about was like,
yeah,
okay,
that was the first question. Who threw that ball? That was the very first thing. And yeah.
I love Kool-Aid's reaction after the video where the ball is caught. The video captures Ja'Cory going in past the corner of the end zone, then comes back, and Kool-Aid's already got his helmet off looking like, are you serious? And also, how about the camera work? Whatever this motion videographer thingy majig we have that just follows the play as it's going in real time. That was unbelievable. So yeah, great job all the way around by whoever does that for the university. So I will put a link to that tweet if you haven't seen it, because the video is pretty phenomenal. And again, it is one throw, but the reason we bring it up is because I checked out Bama Online, who I know you're not with, you're with On 3, but I'm going to give them both shouts outs.
Good folks over there. Good folks over there. No animosity.
And they have a post about it, and it has 127 responses. It's at the top of the message board from yesterday. And half of them are like, hey, Jalen Milroe's the best. Half of them are like, I can see our defensive backs still can't make a play on the ball. Another half are like, I know this isn't adding up mathematically, but another half are like, Ja'Cory Brooks is going to be a star. And still yet another half, which would make it 200% total, are like, I still believe in Ty Simpson. I mean, it's funny. Like, we can't just enjoy the one single play. But anyway, let me tell everybody about FanDuel. The tournament, the Final Four is this weekend. Are you going to watch it? I don't know if you're going to watch it. I know that I'm getting a phone call. But so I know that the Final Four is this weekend. It's going to be fun, I guess. Frankly, I'm not fired up about it, but I might bet on it because that's the kind of guy I am. And if I do it, I'm going to do it through FanDuel, because you can go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. You get that no sweat first bet up to $1,000. No sweat first bet up to $1,000 at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Absolutely awesome. Can't beat it with a stick. You want to go check it out. And FanDuel is for new customers only. So be sure to go over there ASAP and get ready for the Final Four with FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more. And I'm serious, every moment. NBA, NFL, when it comes back around, probably the XFL. I don't know, but I bet it's on there. I never tried to bet on the XFL, but if you can, FanDuel will let you do it. All right, Jimmy. One other thing we wanted to talk about today that, just sort of an homage segment to one Brandon Miller. He has decided to go pro, to the surprise of everybody. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, he was going pro this entire time. We knew that he was a one and done. I knew he was a one and done the minute I saw him in a scrimmage before they left for their European tour. He's incredible. He is still, to this minute, as I still continue to get phone calls for no reason whatsoever. It's funny. I had a phone call all day until I did the podcast. Regardless, Brandon Miller still catching a little bit of heck from some national writers. I saw Gary Parrish, CBS put out their All-American team. Gary Parrish had on there. I might put up in a second. I don't really want to give it any more clicks, but it's like, much maligned Brandon Miller. I'm like, I mean, are you serious? Are y'all still not going to read into this? I mean, they have this narrative, and they're going to run with it. In fact, it's looking more and more like Darius Miles hadn't done a whole bunch. So, I mean, look, I'm not to downplay what happened, and I don't even want to get off on that. In fact, I'm not. Let's just pay homage to the greatness that was Brandon Miller. I will go on record, say I think he's the best player in Alabama history. I think it's unbelievable that I was alive at 50 years old at a time when we had Brandon Miller and Bryce Young on campus, both playing. It's unfortunate that neither one won a national championship. I'm sad about that. Doesn't mean I don't think they're both the best players in their respective sports and capstone history. Tell me I'm wrong. You can, but you'll be wrong.
He's the best basketball player I've ever seen in Alabama. I mean, and I can't say I've seen them all. I guess I've seen them all on tape, and certainly by reputation and what they've done in the NBA after the fact. I mean, I think Brandon Miller is the best player that's ever played here. I think he's going to not only do well in the NBA, I think he'll be a perennial NBA All-Star if he stays healthy. I think he's a good kid. I think what's happened to Brandon at Alabama, probably through no fault of Alabama's, there's been some PR missteps, yes, but I think what happened is such a shame that that there's a cloud, and through either zero fault of his own or very little fault of his own, that there's a cloud, and that people just clamped onto their narrative, and it doesn't matter what fact. I mean, who cares about facts? Let's just assume. But we live in a society that assumes a lot, and especially when there's a perceived bad guy. So we're free to assume, and who cares about what the real story is? And I think it's a real shame that hangs over Brandon. I hope it will one day disappear for him. I think being in the NBA is going to help. And look, I think the very fact that, let's see what happens in the draft, but as we know, the NBA does extensive investigations into players' characters, and is there something from the past that's going to haunt him? And you're talking about a guaranteed investment of tens of millions of dollars. And if the NBA drafts Brandon at number 2 or number 3, what does that say? Is that going to slow down the cynics and the critics and the jerks? Frankly, no. They'll just go, look, it's the win at all cost Alabama. So it's such a shame. But here's what's not a shame, Luke. He's the best basketball player I've ever seen in Alabama. And what I really appreciate Brandon, now that he's officially gone, is he was a great teammate. He made the team around him better. It wasn't the Brandon Miller show. It could have been. He could have been selfish and scored even more points and took even more shots. That's not who he is. He's a guy that lifts. He's the rising tide that lifts the boats around him. The team was better because of Brandon Miller. The team, and that's, you don't always get that with a superstar, but you do with Brandon. And I do believe he's going to be the second pick in the NBA draft this June. And I think they'll do a character study, and he's going to come out of it with flying colors. Not, gee, I'm not so sure. No, it's going to come out like, This is an A-plus kid that was a bizarre situation that has sort of been his role in it anyway has been misinterpreted.
Yeah, my hope for him now is he gets to go somewhere kind of fun. I just don't want him no offense to any Pistons fans out there or anything, but I just feel like he's not a Detroit Piston type of guy or a Charlotte Bobcat. I mean, boy, I'd love for somehow if he could get on with the Pelicans, but the Pelicans won last night against Denver. They're going to be in the playoffs pretty easily, it looks like. I'm not trying to pretend I keep up with the NBA playoffs all too much, but I just want him to go somewhere kind of fun. I think it'd be kind of cool if he ended up in San Antonio, but I don't know that market's big enough to really exploit his talents, which is probably a horrible way to put that. Nimari Burnett transferring to Michigan. I mean, there's no sense to really go into that very much. I wish him the best. It sounds like it was an amicable parting of the ways, and that's fine. Alabama has reached out to a Tulane transfer who's a very, very good player. Obviously, already got Jaquan Walton that we've talked about. So a lot of stuff happening on the basketball front. Also, while I was in Arizona, ironically, while I just left the Footprint Center, I went to see Phoenix play the 76ers last Saturday night, visiting my son who's at Arizona State. Alabama and Arizona announced a home and home where Alabama will go to Phoenix and play in the Footprint Center, which is awesome. I highly recommend everybody to go. It's a great location. It's like a lot of downtown stuff there. There's an Ainsworth sports bar. If you're familiar with New York at all, the Ainsworth is one of the Ainsworth. This is the Alabama sports bar where you go and watch Alabama games in New York with the Alabama club. And they have an Ainsworth there. It's not quite as big, not quite as nice, but it's fine. They've got some great places to eat. They've actually got a FanDuel sports book in the Footprint Center. You can go and place a bet, then go watch the game. It's pretty awesome. And then if you win, come back out and cash out. It's great. But Alabama, Arizona, and the first one will be next year. So I can't wait to go to that. That's going to be awesome. And then they come to Birmingham. And I'm sure Alabama will also have another game in Birmingham this year. Anywho, let's go ahead and take another break, Jimmy. When we come back, I want to talk about a few things Nick Saban has said recently. Okay, so Nick Saban came out and said Alabama's gone full metal jacket here recently, which some people, interesting choice of words, but it doesn't bother me. It didn't bother me at all. I thought nothing of it. But I feel like all Alabama fans knew exactly what he meant. We're getting a little more rough and tumble, which we need to, maybe a little bit more physical, which I think we needed to. And that is very encouraging to me. I also feel like we're getting a Saban who, boy, it seems like he's kind of everywhere right now, doesn't it? I mean, he was just with Heather Dinich. He was just on SportsCenter. He's been talking a lot, which I think is a good Nick Saban. He's not ornery, but he's not super happy. I think we got a good Nick Saban right now. I dig it. What do you think?
Oh yeah. I think the best Saban this time of year, myself's the grumpy Saban, because I want him perpetually working on this team. It's me. I think this team needs a little more coaching than some other teams. And I say that because I see so many new guys that could play huge roles. We've seen photos and video that seem to indicate that Caleb Downs is getting reps with the ones, which is awesome, but also means he needs a lot of coaching. Malik Benson, who we sort of envision as maybe being the best wide receiver on the team, he needs a lot of coaching. He's coming from junior college. He's got to learn while playing against elite athletes. He needs a lot of coaching. Jam Miller, I think, is going to be a significant player at running back. He's a young player. To say nothing of the quarterbacks who need a world of coaching in addition to competing for the starting spot. They're still very young players. Ty and Jalen Milroe both needs a lot of coaching. Offensive line could have a brand new left tackle who's never really played college football, and Elijah Pritchett. Caden Proctor contending for a starting spot. He needs to be coached up. Great competition at the inside linebacker position, but you could end up with a young player there like Jahad Campbell or Sean Murphy or even Kendrick Blackshire's barely played. Look, there's a lot of positions and guys on this team that need a lot of coaching. And I just see Nick Saban and his staff as very, very busy. But I also see that the upside of this team in terms of how good they might be is pretty exciting.
I was muted. Yeah, I was. I mean, it's not a show unless I'm muted. I mean, what do you want me to do, guys?
It's like the show. The show now begins.
Welcome in to Locked On Bama. Anyway, I feel like we're getting some good reports out of practice about various different players. One thing he did talk about, I saw he mentioned Jermaine Burton, and this is a quote. He said, "I think what Jermaine needs to do is he's got a lot of talent, a lot of ability. I would say consistency and performance, which would come from trust and the belief in doing the little things right, whether it's getting the right depth on a route, seeing the coverage as it is, holding himself a little more accountable to paying attention to detail, and doing the little things right. When he does that, he's an outstanding player. He's got great ability, and hopefully we can get him to do that, and he'll be able to play with a little more consistency." A freaking men. I think every Alabama fan is like, oh my God, that's exactly what we've been saying to really all of our friends when we're watching Alabama games, right? I mean, the thing about Burton is that he is consistently inconsistent.
Mm-hmm. Well, so much of playing wide receivers timing, and when he says depth of routes, let me explain how important that is. Let's say the play call reads that Burton is the primary receiver and he's going to run a 10-yard out. So the quarterback then is on a 3-step drop. What that means is the quarterback takes the snap. He takes this 3-step drop. On the 3rd step, the ball is out and towards Burton. If Burton has run 9 yards, the pass will be off. If Burton has run 11 yards, the pass will be off. For the timing of that play to work and for it to be very, very difficult to cover and for it to be completed, he needs a yard route. The whole play is based on timing and the quarterback's drop and the ball coming out when the quarterback completes his drop. When Burton is not running his route like the quarterback expects, it's a precision thing. It's precision. It's like music. I mean, it's got to be on time or it's going to sound wrong. And that's what Nick's talking about. And it's just one of those little things. It's not the big, the big things are how fast you are. Do you have good hands? Do you know the scheme? Do you know when we say, blue, that it's a 10-yard out? And then beyond that, it's got to be 10 yards, not 9.5, not 10.5. This is all based on timing. So that's the way it works. And that's the way Jermaine apparently needs to improve on that. But we've all seen him be a good player. We've seen him be a good player. Saban even mentioned, I think, Jermaine Burton, a great player when he does everything right. And that's why I'm excited about this wide receiver group, Luke. I can make a case that Benson, Brooks, or Burton, any one of the 3 could be the leading receiver. And that's a good thing.
All right, buddy, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We will be back maybe tomorrow. We might cut one on Saturday. Who knows? We get crazy. So we'll see. But until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.